25 January 2008. A U.S. Army Special Forces unit and their Afghan National Army counterparts embarked on a mission to the Gowardesh Valley. Located in the mountainous Kunar province of Afghanistan, near the border with Pakistan, the valley was known as a long-standing insurgent stronghold. During the pre-dawn hours of the below-freezing day, Special Forces Operational Detachment Alpha, or ODA 3312, and their ANA partners left Forward Operating Base Nuray on a combat reconnaissance patrol. Their mission: confirm or deny enemy activity in the Chenkar area and clear insurgent safe havens. The U.S. and Afghan forces knew this valley to have several enemy strongholds, with fortified overhead cover and weapons caches. The insurgent forces occupying the strongholds had garnered experience from 2 years of successful battles, and were confident in their ability to win any battle on their own terrain. As the ODA and ANA convoy traveled along a snow-packed trail toward their objective, they stopped twice to explode boulders blocking their route. They knew this tactic was a common precursor to an insurgent ambush, so they heightened security by creating a dismounted overwatch element. Staff Sergeant Robert J. Miller was a weapons sergeant for the ODA and the only member who spoke the local language of Pashto. He assembled the partner ANA forces to ensure they could move under cover and establish security around the convoy. Once the convoy reached the target area, the unit used an unmanned aerial vehicle to confirm that 15 to 20 insurgents were occupying prepared fighting positions. Sergeant Miller immediately jumped into his vehicle's turret and engaged the enemy with its mounted Mark 19 40mm automatic grenade launcher. While firing at the enemy, Sergeant Miller used his vantage point to describe the engagement area and identify insurgent positions to the Joint Tactical Air Controller, who then provided accurate grid locations for close air support. 2 A-10 Warthogs, 2 F-15 Strike Eagles dealt lethal blows to numerous enemy positions and disrupted their ability to maneuver. During the airstrike, Sergeant Miller's grenade launcher sustained a malfunction, so he moved to the rear of his vehicle to engage the enemy with the mounted M240B machine gun. He then positioned ANA soldiers to provide flank security, allowing the ODA to focus on enemy targets. Following the initial battle, the ODA commander directed a dismounted patrol to conduct battle damage assessments and post-airstrike assessments. The dismounted patrol was comprised of ODA Alpha and Bravo teams and 15 ANA soldiers. Sensing that the ANA soldiers needed additional assistance, the ODA commander charged Sergeant Miller to lead and advise the ANA team. With the proficiency of an already proven combat leader, Sergeant Miller briefed the ANA platoon leadership in their native language, Pashto, on the scheme of maneuver. Sergeant Miller successfully established rapport and instilled confidence in the entire platoon. Sergeant Miller led his team across the Gowardesh Bridge and toward the target area, all while reinforcing proper patrolling techniques and adjusting the ANA rate of speed along the way. Upon reaching the target area, a natural choke point created by the mouth of a small, steep, and narrow valley, Sergeant Miller directed the ANA to disperse from a file to a modified wedge. Just as the patrol entered the mouth of the valley, they confronted an insurgent hiding behind a large boulder 5 meters away. Refusing to surrender, the insurgent leapt out and shouted Allah Akbar as he began firing on the patrol. Sergeant Miller stepped forward to return fire and killed the insurgent instantly. This contact initiated a near ambush, with more than 100 insurgents opening fire from elevated fighting positions. Sergeant Miller's patrol was completely vulnerable in this choke point to the overwhelming enemy fire. The ANA lead element fell back to find cover positions while Sergeant Miller engaged multiple insurgent positions and called out contact reports to his detachment commander. Sergeant Miller realized the potential for catastrophe as insurgents on the valley floor were inflicting devastating fire on the retreating ANA members and the remaining ODA troops. So to allow his patrol to find cover, he boldly charged the enemy with accurate fire, killing or wounding at least 10 insurgents. Sergeant Miller's weapon, the M249 Squad Automatic Weapon, or SAW, was one of the most effective in the patrol. But it also had a disadvantage in the nighttime battle. The saw's unique sound and muzzle flash constantly made him an identifiable target. Miller realized that his team was pinned down at the choke point and unable to actively engage the enemy. So he continued to charge forward through the open area, engaging multiple elevated insurgent positions, drawing their fire away from the trapped ODA and ANA members. His fire was so accurate that it suppressed the enemy to the right flank of the patrol, which saved his team and allowed the ODA and ANA patrol to find cover positions. On his final charge forward, Miller threw 2 hand grenades, destroyed enemy positions, and killed 4 insurgents. After Sergeant Miller made sure his team was out of immediate danger and able to provide cover fire, he attempted to move for cover. As Sergeant Miller directed fire to enemy positions above him, an insurgent shot him. Sergeant Miller immediately turned, shot, and killed the insurgent who wounded him. The detachment commander had also sustained gunshot wounds to his chest and ordered the entire unit to fall back to cover. However, Sergeant Miller remained alone at the front, low-crawling through the snow, incessantly fighting uphill, drawing fire away from his wounded commander. While the dust, debris, and small arms fire surrounded him, he continued to engage and identify insurgent positions to his team for 25 minutes, until he used all his saw ammunition and threw his last hand grenade. At some point, while providing cover fire, Sergeant Miller was mortally wounded. At the first opportunity, one of Sergeant Miller's team members went to him and attempted to administer aid. Before a compress could be applied to his wounds, Sergeant Miller stopped breathing. Teammates attempted to recover Sergeant Miller's body, but were forced to move for cover due to enemy reinforcements. Almost 2 hours later, a quick reaction force, close air support, and direct fire allowed the ODA to push back into the valley to recover Sergeant Miller's body. The enemy continued to fire on the patrol as medevac support exfiltrated Sergeant Miller's body and wounded troops. At the end of the operation, enemy safe havens were reduced. The ODA had a better picture of the enemy in the area, and conditions were set for future operations. Sergeant Miller's extraordinary valor ultimately saved the lives of 7 members of his own team and 15 ANA soldiers. Sergeant Miller's heroism and selflessness above and beyond the call of duty, at the cost of his own life, are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself and the U.S. Army.